So this video will be my spoiler review for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. So if you enjoyed this video today, feel free to like and subscribe for future Marvel content. This is a spoiler warning for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. So something that I mentioned in my non-spoiler review that I can talk at least a little bit more detailed with the spoiler review is how the beginning felt rushed to me. So I'm not referring to the opening scene where we see Michelle Pfeiffer's Janet Van Dyne in the quantum realm, and we see Kang crash into the quantum realm because he was exiled. Obviously, we don't know that he was exiled yet, but I'm not talking about that portion. I'm talking about after, when we actually see Paul Rudd, Scott Lang, and stuff like that. And they're just kind of like, we're just seeing them kind of live their everyday lives, which is, fine. There was nothing wrong with that per se, but I just felt like not necessarily that the beginning felt pointless, but just because it wasn't leading to anything necessarily, it just kind of felt out of place to me. And then when we got to the part where they get sucked in the quantum realm, it's like, okay, so Cassie was just studying all of Hank Pym's journals and stuff like that, and she's just that knowledgeable now that she creates a device. Or I mean, she got help from Hank Pym and Hope and stuff, but it's like, so she creates a device and understands quantum realm science and stuff like that now, and then we just suddenly get sucked in because Janet Van Dyne, she seemingly overreacts because she's never reacted this way about the quantum realm before. So it's like, you're upset that she's sending a signal to the quantum realm, but before you weren't that upset when you sent Scott into the quantum realm to get the quantum energy for Ghost and stuff. Now someone could argue that Scott was only in the quantum realm ever for a few seconds at a time when he was getting the energy for Ghost, clearly, that we saw at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, but still, it's kind of like, if she was this adamant about Kang in the quantum realm, then it should have been something that, she was clearly shown in Ant-Man and the Wasp, that, no, we shouldn't go back in the quantum realm and stuff like that. Obviously, the real-world reason is that they didn't write the plot regarding Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania yet, so they didn't think that they were going to put Kang in the quantum realm probably at that point in time. But still, it's like a slight plot hole that someone could point out, but it doesn't really bother me in the long run. Now, I did really enjoy the comedy in this movie, like I said in my non-spoiler review as well. And then whenever Kang was on, with Jonathan Majors playing Kang, whenever he was on, the seriousness that just protruded from him was just fantastic. I think the way he portrayed Kang in this, and how OP that he really is. Although clearly they did establish that Kang, at least this version of Kang, his powers are derived from his suit, because whenever he was wearing his suit and his suit was fully intact is when he could do all of the stuff he was doing, like the energy blast, the force fields. Seemingly, it looked like telekinetic powers, but it probably really wasn't, and it probably had something more to do with controlling the time around somebody, which would be similar to how He Who Remains kind of used the device on his wrist at the end of Loki. And then obviously this is evident that that's where his power stems from, because at the end of the movie, when all of the ants overpower him, they destroy his suit, and he's unable to use his powers like that, so it just leads to a simple fist fight between him and Scott Lang. And then obviously at the end of the movie, when we see this fist fight between him and Scott Lang, it's very good, in my opinion, because it still shows how outmatched Scott is. Kang is still an incredibly experienced hand-to-hand fighter, and he was whooping Scott's ass until the Wasp, Hope, came back from the quantum realm portal that was going to bring them back to the surface to help, and then they potentially got stranded there because they destroyed the device, and then Kang got sucked in to his own multiversal generator core, or whatever the hell they called it specifically. Now, one thing that we can talk about a little bit more in depth that I didn't even mention in my non-spoiler review, because he is kind of a spoiler because they didn't focus on it too much, and that's the character of M.O.D.O.K, being Darren Cross, Yellow Jacket from the first Ant-Man movie. Now, traditionally in the comics, M.O.D.O.K is not Darren Cross, which to me is not a problem. In general, I had no issue with the way they portrayed M.O.D.O.K in this. I know there are some people out there who probably might have an issue with it, because he was a very major kind of comic relief character, and he just kind of seemed like he was a dumb character in a way, literal dumb, he didn't really know what he was talking about most of the time and stuff like that. He just didn't seem that smart. But with that being said, I had no issue with them portraying M.O.D.O.K in the way that they did, and if you did, I really behoove you to name exactly what you enjoy about M.O.D.O.K so much, because I guarantee not a lot of people care about M.O.D.O.K like that. If I were to have one critique for M.O.D.O.K, I would say that one of the things that makes M.O.D.O.K M.O.D.O.K is how it's kind of like the body horror aspect with what his head looks like. Like his head, like it looks deformed almost in a way, and it's like real wrinkly, and it just kind of looks scary in a way, even if they still make the character funny. And obviously that's something that they decided not to do, and they just decided to make it Darren Cross's normal face except a big head, which like I said, I still don't have a problem with how they did that. I think it definitely worked for comedic purposes, and I enjoyed it. Now, the emotional beats in this movie was definitely something that I just think they didn't deliver on as much in certain moments. Like, for example, when they open the quantum portal to, like, go back to the surface, and then Kang is trying to use that portal to go back at the last minute as well, but Scott is trying to prevent him. And then Wasp goes back to help, and then they close the portal, seemingly showing that Scott and Hope are stranded in the quantum realm now. But it's like they show on Earth, like, as the portal's closing, Catherine Newton's Cassie Lang, she kind of just, like, it's hard to kind of explain unless you see it. Like, she just kind of stands there and she just yells, "Dad!" But, like, it just didn't, like, you shouldn't really be reacting that way. Like, I just felt like that was, like, a lackluster reaction for your dad potentially being stranded in the quantum realm and you don't even know what's really happening, like if Kang is still alive and stuff, and if he's being killed by Kang and stuff like that. That's one of the things that I reference in my non-spoiler review video without specifically mentioning the scene. Like, Catherine Newton's performance, I don't think she's a bad actor, but her performance in general was just kind of okay to me. The best performance in the movie, by and large, is Jonathan Majors as Kang the Conqueror. Like, the way he portrays himself as a villain, he is just a force to be reckoned with Kang the Conqueror, and I'm very excited to see where we're going to see him next in the MCU, which is most likely going to be Loki Season 2 before anything else, because I highly doubt we're going to see any version of Kang at all in Guardians 3, but, you know, we could be wrong. And the post-credit scenes for this movie, I felt, were just absolutely phenomenal. They did a great job just setting up and having people anticipate what's coming next. The first post-credit scene being establishing the Kang dynasty and showing all of the thousands of variants of Kang and stuff like that. And each version of Kang, even though we only see a lot of them for a very small amount of time, like they're just all kind of doing their own thing in a short amount of time, the way Jonathan Majors is able to portray all these versions of Kang is like slightly different from one another. It's just absolutely insane. It really gets me excited to see how he's going to portray other versions of Kang and who, like, the main version of Kang, so to speak, if you want to say, is going to be, like, because there's obviously going to be, like, a main version of Kang, most likely, that's going to be, like, the one that they have to take down, probably in Secret Wars and stuff like that. It's possible that the exiled version of Kang in the movie, even though, you know, he supposedly dies because he gets sucked into, like, the multiversal generator or whatever, but the rule of thumb is always, unless you see the body in a Marvel movie, I'm just going to assume that he's not dead. So it's possible that this exiled version could come back, and that could also be the main version. But judging from the second post-credit scene as well, it's possible that this variant of Kang, now named Victor Timely, could be the main Kang, because we get the second post-credit scene, we see a Victor Timely in the 1920s on stage at a technological expo, talking about time and stuff, and then we get Loki and Mobius in the audience, and Loki telling Mobius that that's him, referring to Victor Timely as Kang. So we'll see if Victor Timely is the one who's supposed to be, like, He Who Remains. Maybe we're dealing with, like, a paradox situation where the multiversal war that was mentioned by He Who Remains in Loki is the same multiversal war that we're about to experience through Secret Wars and stuff like that, and then it all kind of just loops back around, and He Who Remains, like, has to put the sacred timeline back together again, and it all just kind of repeats itself. That obviously remains to be seen, but I just think these post-credit scenes were fantastic in anticipating where Kang is going to go in the MCU. But overall, I would give this movie at least an 8 out of 10. I definitely enjoyed it a lot. Comment down below if you enjoyed Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and if you enjoyed this video today, feel free to like and subscribe for future Marvel content. I appreciate you for watching the video.